En dan nu het laatste deel van de serie Television. En vanavond gaat het over de toekomst en dan met name de toekomst van de Omroep Satelliet.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
Director, it's today and rather good evening.
In het begin was het woord. Het kwam uit de radio. Daarna iets veel krachtigers. Het televisiebeeld. Een halve eeuw lang verleenden regeringen vergunningen aan omroepen die het eigen volk verantwoording schuldig waren. De wereld stapt nu het derde tijdvak van uitzendingen binnen. Televisie per satelliet, die over alle landsgrenzen heen gaat en niemand verantwoording schuldig is. 15 jaar geleden begon het allemaal in Amerika. Televisie bleek daar zo winstgevend dat het ene kanaal na het andere erbij kwam. Met als resultaat talrijke kanalen van privéondernemingen die doorgeven per satelliet of kabel. Alleen in New York liefst 35.
That's a local broadcast channel, as is that. As is this one. This is a Spanish language channel. This is a local broadcast channel, Channel 7. This is a Spanish language channel, local broadcast, including 3 hours a night of Chinese language programming. This is Cable News Network, which is a 24-hour-a-day live news program. This is HBO, 24-hour-a-day
magazine.
30 inch.
When people speak of the revolution in television today, they usually think it's the revolution in technology, but in fact it's the revolution in deregulation. Deregulation is a revolution. It's taking away, stripping away accountability that had always been there before. For 50 years, broadcasters lived with a sense of accountability and a public interest standard, and the idea that they were trustees of the public.
Waarmee vul je in vredesnaam 24 uur zendtijd per dag? Goedkoop is de kijker te laten praten.
Do we have another one on line 4? Hi there.
Hi. I want to say first that I love your show.
How nice of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, my date of birth is...
Vanuit een studiootje zo groot als een studeerkamertje, huur $45 per uur, luistert een sterrenwichelaar naar uw diepste verlangens.
Oh, okay. I have... okay, you ask your question first.
Okay. I'd like to know if I'm going to be getting an apartment in the next couple of months that I've been hoping I would get.
Well, let me say this. I'm not 100% sure...
We do 12,000 hours a year of locally produced programming by people who live in New York City. That's 1,000 hours a month. We have no control over the content of the programming, nor any responsibility for it, and our only responsibilities are for minimum technical standards of a very unsophisticated nature, so that the door is wide open for anybody who wants to put virtually anything on the air.
Okay, I'd like a job as an engineer building garbage and sanitation trucks.
You want to build garbage and sanitation trucks?
Yeah.
Zo lost New York de werkloosheid op. Een telefonische vacaturebank voor telefoongekken.
Hey, your sign falling, man. Yeah, well, we had this sign built by one of those clowns that was in here before looking for a job. Now...
TV-ondernemers hadden snel door dat die gespecialiseerde kanalen kijkers weglokten. Zoals het Playboy-kanaal met 24 uur per dag films voor boven de 18.
They've taken the wraps off these things. And the whole idea of public service and public responsibility. And so already we're seeing communities in this country an uproar over cable because cable brings in softcore film.
Twice.
MTV gives you sneak preview videos every hour on our videos seen only here on MTV.
MTV geeft 24 uur per dag videoclips aan elkaar gepraat door een videojockey.
Christmas, if not right after the first of the year. She's been working on that quite diligently.
It takes about an hour in the studio. for the VJ segment, which then translates to 5 hours of airtime.
It's Billy Squire all night long.
Gebruikmakend van gratis videoclips zijn de eigen productiekosten $2000 per uur. Goedkope televisie dus, met veel winst.
Madonna.
Groot, rijk, glimmend. Amerika's grootste winstmaker in kabelland. Home Box Office. HBO zendt 24 uur per dag speelfilms uit. Aangezien Hollywood maar zo'n 150 nieuwe films per jaar levert, blijkt het moeilijk al die zendtijd te vullen. Deze gespecialiseerde kabelnetten noemen zich leveranciers van amusement. Journaal- of actualiteitenrubriek, zoals bij de omroepen, daar doen ze niet aan. Ze trekken zich van overheidsbepalingen niets aan en daarmee knabbelen ze heel veel kijkers bij de omroepen weg.
Already, cable is consolidating. 10 of the companies in cable now control more than half the cable systems in America. It'll come down to 10 or 12 by 1990 that will own all of them and control all of them. And in controlling them and having a monopoly and not having to be publicly accountable, they will, in fact, control what comes out over those. Because a cable system with 50 channels of service sounds like it provides a lot of diversity and a lot of different viewpoints. But in fact, each of those channels is like the tines of a rake. They meet at a handle, and it's the fellow who controls the handle who controls what comes out over those 50 channels. So it's not diversity, it's just the illusion of diversity.
Voor deze nieuwe kabelnetten moeten kijkers betalen. Ze kunnen alleen bestaan als veel kijkers betalen. De meest winstgevenden zijn dus amusementsgericht. Het zijn HBO voor speelfilms, Showtime ook voor speelfilms, MTV voor popmuziek, CNN voor 24 uur nieuws per dag, het eigen net van Walt Disney, Nickelodeon, een net voor kinderen, ESPN alleen voor sport, CBS voor christelijke zending en zoals gezegd het Playboy-kanaal.
One of the effects of deregulation is going to be that we're going to have to trust to the beneficence of large corporations to serve the best interests of democracy.
Welke invloed heeft deze concurrentie nu op de omroepen die met hun miljardenomzet de Amerikaanse televisie al 50 jaar beheersen?
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening, this is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting.
I congratulate all of you on your foresight.
Van oudsher geven deze omroepen veel nieuws, politiek en sport. Op die gebieden kunnen ze de vergelijking met de beste Europese omroepen doorstaan. Maar wat zijn hun vooruitzichten?
The best figure we have that by 1990 we'll have between 70 and 74% of the audience we had, say, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But that our total listening will be larger. And right now, I think that figure's too conservative.
Well, I think it has inexorably changed the nature of network television, and we're in the midst of that change. You're talking about an environment where the 3 networks in the United States shared 95% of the audience in prime time. That's now down to just under 80%. In HBO'd households, it's between 50 and 60%.
So the networks will get smaller, the advertisers will pay more, and eventually there has to be a revolution. The advertiser has to say, the hell with you, I ain't paying this much. I can put together a lot of different other ways to get the same amount of audience cheaper. And that will be the end of the network system, as all network systems, as all mass systems end. They usually take from 20 to 30 years.
Erger nog, de omroepen dreigen door de kabelexploitanten te worden opgekocht, zoals ABC-televisie dat gedeeltelijk met het geld van kabelnetten voor het enorme bedrag van $3,5 miljard is overgenomen.
Ted Turner has always said that he wanted to own, control one of the American television networks.
Ted Turner, de baas van het 24 uur per dag nieuwsnet, bracht een bod van $4,5 miljard uit op CBS, de parel van het Amerikaanse omroepbestel.
I believe it is inevitable that Ted will own one of the American networks, whether it's CBS or NBC.
Amerikaanse regeringen geloven dat minder overheidsbemoeienis de omroepen enorme winsten zal brengen en de economie zal stimuleren.
It's a mania in the United States to deregulate industry, get off of businesses back, let the economy thrive. And these new developments in the electronic media will revitalize will lead to the reindustrialization of America. We will then take the lead in the world in the information age. So everybody in government seemingly wants all this to happen without obstruction.
Maar er is nog een andere, sterkere kracht dan de kabel in het spel die televisie totaal kan veranderen. De satelliet. Met één enkele omroepsatelliet kun je 1/3 van de aardbol bestrijken. Dat betekent dat het ene land vrijwel geen greep heeft op wat een ander land via de satelliet uitzendt.
Our duty, being a public broadcaster, is especially in view of the new possibilities to preserve and to defend our own culture. The problem with channels like Sky Channel is, of course, is a sort of a undermining of our own position in that of the Netherlands. It applies for all European public broadcasters.
Satellietzenders als Sky Channel bieden machtige multinationals de gelegenheid één enorm Europees publiek te bereiken. Dat zou verstrekkende gevolgen kunnen hebben voor de nationale omroepen, zoals marktonderzoekers snel in de gaten kregen.
As non-national broadcasting develops and as the satellites develop, so those channels will be advertising funded. And therefore the national or BBC-type channels in countries will be less able to control the television that their people see. And the whole economics of television start to change. And that broadcasting will by definition upset the monopoly that states currently have on the control and the form of broadcasting that takes place.
De Europese plannen van Rupert Murdoch zijn kinderspel vergeleken met die van een stel Amerikaanse ondernemers met Luxemburg als uitvalshaven. Hun satelliet Kroon bestrijkt ieder Europees land met maar liefst 16 kanalen.
Total market in Europe for, let's call it new television, could be, say, in the range of 2 to 5 billion pounds per year. One satellite that is carrying something like 15 to 20 television programs reaching the entire European market could, let's say, get a third to half of that, or 1 to 2 billion pounds per year, is roughly the size of the market that Coronet or the Luxembourg satellite might be able to garner.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
De Engelse regering heeft gezegd de tweede industriële revolutie levensbelangrijk te vinden. Maar is ze bereid de enorme investeringen te doen die Frankrijk... Welke invloed hebben die veranderingen bij de Europese omroepen op het veelgeprezen Engelse omroepbestel?
I think that the British broadcasting is now at a watershed, which has never faced before. I think the point is, you see, that public broadcasting in Britain is based on a 19th century technology and a 19th century idea. The technology is of a scarce resource. The idea is of a service. Cable and satellite, the present age, is about a 21st century technology and a 21st century ideology, system of values. It is a technology of total abundance, and it is an ideology of private market forces determining how people make choices.
Engeland in het jaar 2000. Ieder huis heeft zijn eigen schotelantenne om minstens 20 satellietkanalen op te vangen. In iedere kamer staat een tv. We betreden de wereld van de kabelexploitanten met hun onbeperkte vermaaksindustrie.
The future is that the BBC and the hold on to the audience which is available and which the cable and satellite companies are trying to take away from them. They will have to say, I'm sorry, we can no longer do the one-off drama, we can no longer do the innovatory comedy, we can no longer put money into minority programs, we have to put money into movies, into light entertainment programs and so on. Their position within the total structure, the total ecology of British broadcasting will be slowly eroded, and they will have played a part in that.
Morning, Gran.
If the future is one in which the provision of television programmes is on the basis of market forces rather than public service values, the future is actually rather bleak.
From the satellite, this is the Murdoch News. Good morning. Queen Diana is 38 today. Later, a sneak preview of the surprises prepared for her by the royal family. Schoolboy marked in America, and that's thanks to some behind-the-scenes work.
The real problem is not one of somehow the BBC and the ITV being abolished. The problem is one of slow erosion.
Our plucky yacht
Di, come on.
sets out this morning to cross the
No, Di, stop it.
Stop.
Stop.
More of that too, but first, today's bingo numbers.
Do we have a society where there is a public culture, or do we have a society where there is a privatised culture?
Morning, my super satellite starlets. Well, as the whole world knows by now, and certainly here...
Do you mind? Sorry. Thank you.
All of you born today, here is your horoscope for the year ahead, but especially for Queen Diana.
Any sign of
This
Willie yet?
year,
No.
you are beautiful, ardent, and a dazzling delight for all to behold.
Willie, you're late.
Manuel Gonzalez is riding the Arab thoroughbred here again today, and this is really paying off in this tiny Maracaibo non-league ring. Some of those new signings from the Manila team favor the Afghan crossbreeds, but we can't see why they would...
Wow, look at that. Gonzalez has stuck this ball really mean.
William, it's gone 9.
And it was smack on.
If one has satellite systems, if one has more and more work done from home, if one has more cable systems, if one has that kind of element, the individual is, as it were, forced back into the home. At one level, that's very good. At another level, it's alienating, because what it does potentially is divorce them from any kind of human contact. It destroys that sense of public culture. Shit.
More coffee?
Ah, yes. Sorry.
Your loving personality will penetrate hearts.
Why?
all
With
round.
20 channels to choose from,
You will work
must you watch
miracles,
him every morning?
And in the whole of the cosmos,
Just
no one is more popular
because.
than you.
Terug naar vandaag. Het Engelse omroepbestel, volgens iedereen het beste ter wereld, wordt bedreigd. Een van de gevaren is kabeltelevisie in 1982 ingevoerd.
Now, I hope that when our detailed proposals are available next spring in a white paper, cable development will proceed as speedily as possible. Again, it'll create many thousands of new jobs. Jobs in making cable, jobs in laying it, in producing equipment for the studio and in the home, and in making programs. So we're giving the green light to the cabling of Britain. We believe that the best traditions of our existing broadcasting services can be maintained. Exactly the same standards of public taste and decency can be applied to cable as applied to BBC and ITV.
In 1982 stortten bedrijven als Song, EMI en Robert Maxwell zich op de kabel. Om geld voor investeringen uit de privésector aan te trekken, diende de overheid zich nergens mee te bemoeien. Die vond het best vanwege de werkgelegenheid. Dit is het Swindon-kabelnet, dochteronderneming van Song EMI. In 1984 met veel tamtam ten doop gehouden. Het programma-aanbod is de vertrouwde hutspot van popmuziek, speelfilms en amusement dat de abonnees liever zien dan BBC 1. Maar het Swindon-kabelnet is nog steeds het enige dat op volle toeren draait van de 11 netten waarvoor in 1982 vergunning werd verleend.
For £5.95 you receive the standard service which includes Screen Sport, Music Box, Sky Channel, Children's Channel, our own local programming, and a full range of out-of-area, off-air broadcasts. For a further $7.95, you receive Premiere, the film channel, which offers up to 40 films each month, 18 of which may be new to the service.
Het kost 700 gulden om een huis op het kabelnet aan te sluiten. Pas over een paar jaar speelt Swindon kiet, ook al komen er 100 abonnees per maand bij. Als er geen extra investeringen uit de privésector bijkomen, kan het proefnet van Swindon het niet bolwerken. En het hele project heeft geen nieuwe banen opgeleverd, waarna in 1984 de overheid de subsidies introk. Om de inkomsten te verhogen heeft Swindon Kabel toen zijn abonneeprijs verlaagd.
Hello there, Mrs. Rivers. Yes. Dave Richards, Swindon Cable. Hello there again. Nice to see you.
In Swindon zijn 3500 huizen geschikt voor aansluitingen op het kabelnet. Ondanks de stevige klantenwervingen hebben maar 350 gezinnen besloten abonnee te worden. Dat is dus maar 1 op de 10. Een verhouding waarvan Swindon-kabel niet kan bestaan. Voor de regering stond kabeltelevisie voor werkgelegenheid en hoogwaardige technologie, wat weinig te maken heeft met het peil van de vertoonde programma's.
For the person in the home, what matters is the picture and the program that they're watching. What matters is what's on their television, not how it gets there. It could get there on a piece of wet string as far as they're concerned.
Als, volgens Margaret Thatcher, het de moeite waard is de beste tradities van het bestaande omroepbestel te bewaren, dan kan dat niet met kabeltelevisie, denken velen. De vrije jongens hebben minderwaardig werk geleverd. Zelfs de Engelse overheid geeft dat nu toe.
New outlets being provided, particularly the cable one with its multiplicity of channels, that cannot be expected to be public service broadcasting in the same sense. There has to be requirements on taste and decency, certainly, because of the nature of the medium and its intrusiveness, but there doesn't have to be the general public service standards.
This Conservative government gave up, really, the battle to regulate cable, and you can regulate cable if you want to, but it gave it up because the market for cable was so tiny that the people who were looking for the franchises felt they could only gain it if the restrictions which are imposed on commercial television did not apply in the same way to them.
Nu kabeltelevisie vrijwel van de baan is, stort de Engelse overheid zich op satelliettelevisie. Hier bij British Aerospace ontwikkelen ze een nieuwe generatie satellieten. Zo schept men niet alleen nieuwe werkgelegenheid, maar verzekert Engeland zich van zijn plaatsje op de satellietenmarkt. Dit nieuwe tv-station zal worden doorgegeven via de rechtstreekse uitzendsatelliet die de weinige kabelnetten in Engeland overbodig zal maken, want het signaal komt rechtstreeks via een schotelantenne de huiskamer binnen. Abonneeprijs £70 per maand.
I think that if there is a technical possibility to do it, which there is, and if it's going to happen elsewhere, it would be quite ludicrous to say that it oughtn't to happen in this country. Now, we are not financing it. We are providing an opportunity for it to happen. We're facilitating it. I think it would be a good thing if it does happen. And I think that is the right attitude of government to take.
Omdat de overheid er geen cent in wil steken, wil ze het contract aanbieden aan een consortium bestaande uit BBC plus 15 aloude concurrenten van de BBC, de commerciële televisie, plus een paar particulieren.
The trouble at the moment is the cost of the delivery system, the satellite, is a little too heavy to make us believe that it's a viable business. But nevertheless, negotiations continue, and we're still optimistic that we'll arrive at a situation where the costs of the satellite are such that we feel able to offer a service which the public will want to pay for.
Probably £400 million is the sort of investment we're talking about. Could be slightly more than that. At the present time, the BBC has a 50% stake in this consortium, and there are 20 other partners, as you probably know.
De Engelse regering eist het gebruik van een Engelse satelliet. Dus is Unisat in het leven geroepen. Daarin zitten British Aerospace, Marconi en British Telecom. De prijs van 2 satellieten, 1 reserve en een echte zender, beloopt £1,5 miljard.
That may require the government to take a slightly different attitude than it does at the moment about assisting with it. Elsewhere in Europe, with their DBS services, there has been some financial assistance available to people starting.
Die groep van maatschappijen vindt die satelliet te duur. Zij hebben liever Britsat, die de technologie van het Amerikaanse RCA gebruikt. De 2 satellieten van Britsat komen £500 miljoen goedkoper uit.
As for government assistance, I don't believe that that is appropriate. I think that there are many calls on the taxpayer, and there are many things that we should be doing. I don't think this is one of them. I think that it is something that ought to be financed independently if it's to happen at all, because you cannot regard this, however desirable it is, as a necessity of life of a kind that government and government alone should directly finance out of the taxpayer's money.
So if the private sector decide that they won't go ahead with this, the project will die.
Yes.
Het plan zelf is al peperduur en in de 2 genoemde bedragen zijn nog niet eens programmakosten inbegrepen. De nieuwe maatschappij moet ook nog zo'n aantrekkelijk programma-aanbod bekokstoven dat kijkers er geld voor willen neerleggen. Wat krijgt de klant?
The only thing that's very sure at the moment is a movie channel. I think people talk a little glibly about the attractions of movies. Most people in the feature film industry know they're lucky if they get 12 box office successes a year. The appetite of a all-movie channel on DBS or anywhere else is a lot greater than that, probably for up to 150 films a year. So the chances are you'll get a lot of very bad films. And I have my doubts myself about whether in the long term that will be satisfactory. So there'll have to be other forms of entertainment. And you may start with a movie channel, but I would see the likelihood of the 1990 equivalent of Dallas being up there with the movies as well. Beyond that, it's a box office in the skies.
Why will it be entertainment-based? Because this is a pay service. And for a pay service, which isn't anything to do with public service broadcasting, you have to sell the public what they wish to buy. And all the market research has indicated that what the public would wish to buy would be an entertainment-led service, and basically a feature film entertainment-led service. It's a very high-risk venture.
There'll be an increase in the volume of entertainment that is coming down from the skies, but it could be a Star Wars battle of circulation implications rather than ballistic missiles. And in those circumstances, I don't hold out much hope for the quality of programs.
Goede televisie kost veel geld. Gemiddeld kost een BBC-programma van 1 uur dik 1 ton. De BBC kan aan zijn normale kwaliteitsaanbod misschien niet meer voldoen als duur geld in die satelliet moet worden gestoken. De commerciële ITV heeft zijn programmanormen aan de BBC ontleend en stopt dik 160.000 gulden in 1 uur televisie. De aardse diensten van ITV zouden door die ruimtesatelliet ook wel eens in het gedrang kunnen komen als ook daar geld in moet.
Because of increased competition for the audience from cable systems, from satellite systems, the BBC and the ITV companies will be forced to, as it were, conspire with their own demise. That will happen because they will be forced to reduce the amount of money they spend on marginal programs, on minority programming, on difficult programming, on one-off dramas and so on. And they will have to spend more money on peak time programs, on popular programs, on mass taste programs.
There's the possibility that there will be so many different types and forms of entertainment coming through that public service broadcasting as it's presently seen would lose its major audience share. And unless there is a major audience share, then I don't believe you can continue with public service broadcasting.
We've got to be astute enough not to deprive the existing audience of those services, to expand upon them, to make the satellite service attractive. Now, we believe we can put forward ideas that will do that, but our peers in this matter, the BBC Board of Governors, in our case the IBA, have to be satisfied that in so doing we don't damage our obligations to our terrestrial franchise.
De BBC dreigt financieel in moeilijkheden te komen. Als die satelliet ooit van de grond komt, zou die geld kunnen opleveren voor de normale programma's. Maar de kans op mislukking is groot. Een andere mogelijkheid, ook reclametelevisie maken. Daarover adviseert op last van de regering de Peacock-commissie.
Well, the first thing we've got to do is to resist the pressures to put advertising on the BBC and make the BBC subject to the commercial pressures which would force it to go for programs of the lowest common factor in order to get the commercials. Now, that, of course, would have a terrible effect upon the commercial broadcasting organizations as well.
I think the BBC will probably, sometime in the future, take advertising. It becomes more and more difficult to justify a license fee when the share of viewing taken by that 1 or 2 channels becomes smaller and smaller. I mean, why should people in cable homes, when the bulk of their viewing is not to BBC, be forced to pay £58 a year in addition to what they're paying for cable, solely for the privilege of having on their sets channels they don't choose to watch?
Hoe dan ook, de Engelse omroepen moeten de satellietuitdaging aannemen. Om nieuwe technologie aan te moedigen zou de regering middelgrote antenneschotels moeten toestaan. Maar dat betekent weer dat alle huizen in Engeland voor iedere halfgare satellietzender van de vrije jongens toegankelijk worden.
Let's take a look at it again, Kurt. He gets down at the shoulder, pushes down on that left horn, up on the right horn, brings the steer around.
As far as low-powered satellites are concerned, there is probably going to be little form of regulation, and I'm very concerned that low-powered satellites, very inexpensive, can be acquired by undesirable elements and can be broadcasting signals throughout the world, carrying all sorts of propaganda, coupled with very fine entertainment programs that could be poached. So I think low-powered satellites are a very serious problem for the future of broadcasting in the world.
One of the possible developments would be for states who have a message they wish to get across, Libya immediately springs to mind, to develop their own satellite services. Now, one reaction would be, well, who would want to watch Libyan television? Because it's not the world's most appealing television. But, I mean, with the skillful programming and so on, one could imagine services being developed.
Iedere omroep, iedere politieke of godsdienstige groepering, iedere limonadefabriek kan voor 3,5 miljoen gulden per jaar een satellietkanaal huren en alle Engelsen bereiken. Dat wordt dan de totale vrijheid-blijheid.
We will get, I think, an enormous variety of things. It is simply a case of opening up. And there the analogy with book publishing does hold. I mean, plainly, you can sell a couple of million copies of pot boiling or not pot boiling, very successful, popular book. But on the other hand, learned works continue to be published. And that's after 500 years of printing. So I think that it statistically and numerically may be that there will be more of the less culturally advanced stuff.
Maar de toekomst is al aangebroken. Dit is CNN, het nieuwsstation in de Verenigde Staten dat 24 uur per dag uitzendt. Als satellietkanaal dat graag de hele wereld zou bestrijken, gunt het ons een blik in de toekomst. CNN heeft in Amerika al 32 miljoen kijkers. Maar Ted Turner zal niet rusten voordat zijn nieuws in elk land ter wereld wordt ontvangen.
CNN, Ted Turner, wants to have his news organization the world over. He wants to be at the threshold of world and international information. And it's important for us to be in as many countries as possible. I think we're in 17 countries right now, and of course, Ted Turner won't rest until he's in over 200 countries, as we have them listed in the World Atlas.
Satellietuitzendingen storen zich niet aan landsgrenzen. In Rusland en andere Oost-Europese landen zouden ze CNN als een regelrechte bedreiging zien, net zoals de Engelsen een Libische satelliet als een hinderlijke indringer zouden beschouwen.
We will begin to incur some unique experiences when we get up there on satellites, and we can be received in Eastern European countries, Middle Eastern countries. It's going to create some problems, but as somebody once said, you can't kill the messenger.
De Russische televisie heeft nog niet aangegeven welke rol hij zal spelen in de eeuw van de volkomen vrijgegeven informatietechnologie. Tot nu toe is in Rusland de vrije instroming van informatie tegengegaan. Al ruim 10 jaar zijn de Russische autoriteiten bezorgd over de uitwerking van satellieten op hun communistische soevereiniteit. Niets van dat alles kan de zendingsdrift van een man als Ted Turner in toom houden, die ook al een oogje heeft op die Amerikaanse reuzenomroep, CBS.
It is definitely changing, and the ownerships are changing. New people are coming into play. Just as the shipping barons and the railroad barons of the late 1800s brought new wealth and new ideas, I think that you're seeing new entrepreneurs of the day, and I think that the historic broadcasters of the earlier portion of the 20th century are now gone.
What is the evidence that we have to draw conclusions about what the effects would be of private, market force-dominated television systems? And so I look to other societies, look to other experiences, other models of broadcasting, where there are private market forces at play. I look to Italy, where we have a mess in the television system. I look to the United States, which in terms of television culture is a disgrace.
What was the film's title? Yeah.
Nowhere where one looks where there are powerful market forces, does one see, let's say, a creative wealth? Does one see the tapping of the far reaches of the human imagination?
The thing that the satellite has done is to make the national control over television origination technically no longer relevant and economically no longer relevant. So inevitably it's going to happen. The only question is when and how.
Panda's keeper says he likes them so much he'd like to go to
Busy day?
Not really.
They are the cutest.
Do you mind if I,
No.
Panda bears, they're not really bears.
Рада увеличивать выпуск продукции.
As usual, we want you to press button 1 for Conservative, button 2 for Labour, button 3 for the Liberal.
We can no longer tolerate the sham democracies of the capitalist conspiracy.
Speaking today at the opening of the final phase of the
Where's Willie?
revolution, live President Field Marshal Gaddafi would like to point out that
Ibn al-Khalil into an early lead, closely followed by Pride of Kashmir and Sharif Beauty. But it's the young jockey Mohammed Bandar leading by a length.
Welcome then to the Indira Gandhi Stadium here in New Delhi. It's Liverpool against New Delhi, the fourth round, second leg tie in the Toyota Satellite Super League.
Well, that's the last drink I'm having in there for a bit. I can't keep paying £7.50 for a vodka and tonic.
No, it's that extra pound that they put on spirits at the last budget.
Well, I blame Michael Heseltine. He's no right to make Ken Livingstone Chancellor of the Exchequer.
I mean, I went for my pension today. Well, how do they expect us to manage on only £264.30 a week? I wouldn't care, but they gave it me nearly all in them £5 coins. Was that heavy? I could hardly walk.
Oh, they do it on purpose. They're trying to kill us off. There's too many of us.
Tracy Barlow's turned into a lovely girl, hasn't she?
And bright with it. I mean, she was blinding them with science in there.
We're getting married next week.
Aye, won't time fly?
You got him. Try him.
En dat was de laatste aflevering van Television.